My name is Phlunte Riddle, and as you know, I'm a candidate for a state assembly. I am not going to tell you all of the jobs and all the things that I did, but I have been a lifelong Democrat. My mother, at the age of 18, said, "You're going to register to vote, and you're a Democrat." And I said, "Okay." And so I've been a happy Democrat since then. But they paid $3,200 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,600 square foot house in Pasadena. That's not sustainable. And during COVID, I'm just going to stop with this. When he got laid off, if he didn't have parents that had 2 good pensions, his father and I, they could have been homeless or in our home, which is another issue. But they would never be homeless. I'm just saying it's wrong. And we have to do something about it, and we have to bring people to the table. I know Jed's going to come up and talk, and I want to hear, you know, about how you were able to do the housing, because we have to be able to do that, but bring people together. Last thing I said, and I said that before, what's wrong with ADUs? I've had an ADU on my property since '74. I moved in '97, and it's never been empty. And I live in Hastings Ranch, and nobody has a problem with it. There's not a problem with doing it right, and we have to do that. And that's why I'm running for your state assembly person, because I have fight in me, I have personal determination, and I have overcome some things. When they say life skills, lifelong skills, yeah, that and some. So thank you very much.
Let's go. Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing today?
Okay.
All right.
Great day.
It is an honor to be here. Thank you, Karen Suarez, Mark Ramos, all of our friends who've come together to be together today. I am so honored to be able to share with you, tell you who I am and why I'm running for the state assembly. And I want to recognize our assembly member, Mr. Holden, who's done a fantastic job in that seat. Thank you for being here. Before I talk about the campaign, though, I just want to say to all the elected officials here, Felicia, if you have any other cash, let me just say right now, that's the hardest job in politics. Being a city council member, being a local elected official, you get all the blame, none of the glory, and so shout out. Yeah, that's the hardest job in politics. My name is Jed, and I'm running for the state assembly, and I'd like to take this time to just tell you who I am and why I'm running. I walked inside that classroom, and that was the last semester of my last year of law school. By that time, I'm just going to be real with you, and Kenneth already knows this. People aren't studying anymore. You're just trying to get ready for the bar exam. When I walked into that classroom, that was the first day of my education. The first thing you learn in immigration law is the Chinese exclusion cases. And the very first thing you understand about immigration laws is we didn't make immigration laws until we decided that we were going to remove people from this country only because they were Chinese. And when I found out that this was the history of our immigration legal system, I knew that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my time practicing as a lawyer. So I moved to Los Angeles to represent people who are facing deportation. I met my wife. We lived at 385 South Catalina Avenue, right by Del Mar in Pasadena. In 2017, I looked around my community and I started to notice the homelessness crisis that was happening in Claremont, in California. I not only felt that the solutions that we were working on were inadequate, I also didn't like the way we talked about the problem. I felt like conversations about homelessness somehow became about indictments on the people who were experiencing homelessness, and not an examination of the infrastructure and the causes of the condition that gave rise to this crisis in the first place. Now, along the way, I learned something really funny. Because in 5 years in public service, I have certainly learned way more than I have accomplished. Let me tell you what I've learned. I have learned that when you are a housing advocate, you are also a social justice and equity advocate. The original sin of this country is slavery, and when slavery and Jim Crow laws went away, we continue to segregate communities and people by our housing laws. And so when you fight to improve housing conditions, improve housing affordability, and expand housing opportunities for people, you are also fighting for social justice and equity. I learned that when you are a housing advocate, you are also a climate advocate. Because when we get housing right, We promote housing that reduces reliance on greenhouse gas emissions, reduces reliance on our carbon footprint, reduces the requirement of cars. When you get housing policy right, you get public transportation policy right. We have to think of how do we integrate and combine our housing and policy making decisions along with expanding ridership and opportunities and accessibility for public transportation. And finally, when you get housing right, you also get economic development right. This crisis is so bad, it is literally hurting business. What good is a 3% raise when your rent is going up 10%? Yeah. We cannot keep a middle class in California. We cannot keep a viable workforce, and we cannot continue economic growth unless we get housing policy right and expand housing affordability. So I'm here today because I'm running for this seat, Assembly District 41, for the same reason why I ran for Claremont City Council in 2018. Because I believe that we are facing an existential crisis when it comes to housing affordability, when it comes to homelessness. This is not only an economic crisis, this is also a moral crisis. It has been the singular focus of my work, and I am prepared to carry that torch as your next Assembly member for District 41. My name is Leano. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your support.
Thank you.